Hello and welcome to episode number 276 of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. This is a show that's called Uncurved. And, I know why that's happening. Sorry. This is a show called Uncurved with Nathan Oakley and I, where we are going to discuss the science and the social aspects of Flat Earth. And joining us is Sleeping Warrior Anthony Riley. So Nathan and Anthony Riley, aka Sleeping Warrior, hello. Thank you both for being here.
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to let people know that the reason that the watch page wasn't muted is YouTube/Google forgot to provide us with a button so we could mute it. So I guess that happens from time to time. You just never know what you're going to get when you do a live Google Hangout. Anyway.
I'm liking this early start time.
Yeah, well, it's a little earlier than normal, only 20 minutes late. It's actually in Central Time where I am in Houston, Texas. It's 4:20 p.m. So those of you who wish to imbibe, you have my blessing. Anyway, well, it is an earlier start time than my usual shows, which are 5 p.m. Central Time. So some of the things we're going to talk about today include Nathan's recent video, which is a take on the National Geographic quote-unquote hit piece about flat earthers and the Salton Sea. Nathan came up with a different perspective than many of the other people who've had their takes on it. And it's as valid, if not more so, than everyone else's. I love to get different perspectives on things. We're going to talk about the latest update about who is speaking at the Flat Earth Convention coming up in Amsterdam. And also a video made by a channel I didn't hear about until I heard about it on Phuket Word's channel today, a channel called Jazla 111. So we're going to talk about that video that Phuket Word highlighted and what that's all about. And links to Jazla 111's channel is in the description box, and Phuket Words and Anthony Riley's will be in there, the Sleeping Warrior channel as well. Nathan's is there, plus Nathan's website. And before we even get to the biz of what we're going to talk about, which includes conspiracy cats and Sleeping Warrior, I just want to show off some Valentine's Day flowers, and thanks to the person who sent them to me. I'm not going to name any names. And then this massive thing that came today. I don't know if anybody's able to see that. Huge, beautiful flowers. So,
Wow, great.
You know who you are. I can't say, and I truly appreciate it. So, yeah, okay. And we know who it isn't. Well, actually, let me tell you, I'm going to level with you who it is. The tiny flowers were sent by MGTV, and the massive flowers, two different people split the cost. One of them was Flat Earth Reset, and the other one was a guy who goes by the name of Rock Lover. And I think maybe Star Gods chipped in too. So thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate the Valentine's Day flowers.
Very sweet of them. They're your biggest fans.
You certainly are. All right. Let's talk about conspiracy cats. Sleeping Warrior, Anthony Riley, what is going on between you and he now?
I don't really know where to start. He's a teacher, right? For those of you that don't know, he's a teacher. He's in secondary school education, or he teaches in secondary school education. And I think he's got a degree in biology, but he teaches physics. And Nathan's had this long-running joust with him where he continuously pokes him with the question, how do you have gas pressure without a container? And it's specific, it's narrow, and it's specifically worded so that you can only answer it in a very narrow way. And he refuses to answer it. And he's been poked and 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 poked. It's gone on for weeks and weeks and weeks, to the point where it's just boring. But it has to happen because he's a teacher, right? And he's teaching these kids how you can have a gas pressure in the context of physics. And obviously that involves having a container. But basically it's got to the point where it's become exhausted, and we've had to push him and push him and push him and push him. And he's finally responded. And in responding, we've had a dedicated video on gas pressure and how Earth has a gas pressure in the solar system. But obviously it's right next to a vacuum in space. And our position is that, well, you can't have a gas pressure within the confines of a vacuum, because entropy is going to be basically sucking the atmosphere off immediately, instantaneously. So he's done a dedicated video, and he never mentioned gravity once. Fair play to him. But what he did do was, it was rather intelligent, to be fair, because he actually realized that he's going to have to come up with an angle on this that doesn't involve the obvious. So what he did was he started talking about energy and how the sun creates the energy and that excites the molecules, which is of course true. But then as the sun is no longer in proximity anymore because it's around the other side, the molecules lose their excitement. And basically his position is that they fall onto the surface, but that's not our position. Our position is, of course, they will get sucked off into space immediately. And he focused on the energy being lost and the lack of excitement of the atoms, and therefore they wouldn't be excited and bounce off into space. Which, when I was watching it, I was embarrassed to think that this is what they're actually going to teach kids, if that is part of the curriculum. And if it's not part of the curriculum, the guy's literally just lying, and he's ignoring the point. The point is that there's a gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of membrane. And I'm sure Nathan could elaborate a little bit more than I, but me and Nathan are appalled by this, because this guy's a teacher and he's teaching kids physics, and gas pressure, I'm pretty sure, is part of the national curriculum. But it's a fundamental law of nature that entropy is always going to be from hot to cold, from pressure to non-pressure, always. There are no exceptions to it, and the Earth in the atmosphere is not one of them either. Nathan, do you want to elaborate?
I think you've done a really good job, actually, Anthony. I mean, there's nothing really for me to expand upon, no pun intended. But yeah, the gas would expand into the available space. And if he wants to claim that the energy is lower, well, that is by definition what entropy is. You know, the flow from high energy or high pressure states into lower pressure or lower energy states. Well, there's no way you're going to ever convince me that a very low energy particle at the top is less energy than 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. That's obviously the lower energy, and that is the way that the entropy would dictate it flows, and is demonstratable always. It's a law. That's what happens always, without exception. So to claim that space, somewhere we've never been, is the exception to this rule, even though we can't see, nah.
Yeah. According to the dictionary, entropy is a thermodynamic quantity. I'm reading this, by the way, obviously. It's not coming from the top of my head. Representing the unavailability of a system's thermal energy for conversion into mechanical work, often interpreted as a degree of disorder or randomness in the system. Why is it that the Ball believers' explanations for everything that goes on that's out of our ability to see it ourselves or touch it or observe it, why is it always so incredibly complicated?
I think the best way for me to describe entropy is decay. It's not the most accurate word, and they'll all whinge about it, but if we understand what decay is, if you buy a brand new sports car and you stick it in a barn for 20 years, 20 years down the line, you know what's going to happen when you come to it. It's going to be in a state of decay. That decay is representing entropy, and it always increases. Always, you have to fight entropy at all times with a car. And when you put it in that context, we can all relate to it because we understand what it means. As things get older, entropy will take its hold on everything.
All older women are very well aware of entropy as we become
actually
of a certain age.
Men are the exception to the rule. Men get better with age, apparently.
It's what they say. Darn it all. Anyway.
So in the meantime, Conspiracy Cats has done a video dedicated to entropy. Well, not dedicated to entropy, but explaining how it is that the Earth does not defy the law of entropy. And it does on their model. It defies it, absolutely. And he refuses to address the specific question or the issue. And he diverted with a very clever, but nonetheless deceptive tangent, which requires a level of intellect, which I realized the minute he started doing it. And I realized that this guy literally knows that he's onto a loser, and he'll push his nonsense no matter what. And it makes me cringe because he's a teacher. And I looked up a recent poll on the internet with regards to the most trusted professions in the UK. And the high school teacher is the third highest, most trusted profession in the whole of the UK. I can't remember what was 1 and 2, but teaching was seen as number 3. Of all the jobs there, he's in one of the most trusted positions. And I was like, this guy is literally, he's rubbing salt in the wound and laughing as he does it. And it just drives me mental. And I just feel like strangling him because he knows that this is wrong.
How do you know he knows? Here's the question. Some of the people who fully are hanging onto the globe until their nails are bleeding are lying. They know they're lying, and they're using their intellect to craft a story to fool people, because for some reason that's either some people say they're paid, or they're agents, or some people just think that they're deluded. Then there's others who are actually, they've bought the whole lie system, lock, stock, and barrel, and they are telling you it over and over again. It's a globe, and here's why. Because they truly believe it and would probably pass a lie detector test if they would believe it. Which category do you think Conspiracy Cats falls into? Truly.
I honestly think he's deliberately deceitful, because I get the interpretation. You know, when someone's smarmy and overly cocky and confident and arrogant, they've got that swagger. He does that in a nice kind of way. It's almost like he's robbing your house, but he's shaking your hand and patting you on the back as he does it. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. But then again, somebody could say that's because he's completely sure of himself and what he believes. Nathan, what are your thoughts? Does Conspiracy Cats know he's lying, or does he truly believe in the globe model and just needs to re-educate us all?
It's just a believer. I think it's the latter. I disagree with Anthony on this. I did, until a couple of days ago, think that he was like Charles, flat earth math. In other words, he doesn't understand it, sees the contradictions, and as Anthony describes it, just smirks in the face of them. Well, I don't think he does. I think he's looking to confirm his bias, and that's why he's coming out with stuff that actually backs our assertions, because he's stuck in a state of cognitive dissonance. Well, poor you.
I'm just sad that anybody who believes in the globe has the word cats in their channel name. Kind of a bummer for me, being a cat lover.
Spells it with a Z, though. I think you're safe.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. In the live chat, someone asked me why I had roses. In America, it's Valentine's Day. So you guys are in the UK. Do you have Valentine's Day stuff happening there too?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Yeah. And both of you, what are your thoughts on Valentine's Day? I did a whole show with Mark Sargent yesterday, February 13th, on Valentine's Day. We're not going to really get into it, but since I showed the flowers, what are your thoughts? We all know it's a holiday that has very negative, nasty beginnings involving the Roman Catholic Church and mythology and women being beaten and animals being killed. Not so nice. But what are your thoughts on it now? Both of you have better halves. Did you get them flowers for today?
You want to go first, Anthony? I don't mind if you don't want to.
I think it's another commercial enterprise that is, if it's not Easter, it's Valentine's Day. If it's not Valentine's Day, it's somewhere else. If it's not this, it's that. If it's not the other, it's Mother's Day, then Father's Day, then Great Uncle Mick's Day. And it's just another way to take money off you in the name of families, friendships, loves, and all that. To be honest, it's not something I push too hard. You might get a congratulations, happy Valentine's Day, but I didn't buy anything, if I'm honest.
I know that Nathan often buys his wife flowers. So what about today?
Today I didn't buy flowers. I do regularly buy my wife flowers, but not on Valentine's Day. So ironically, we both did the same thing as a surprise. So we both got our daughter to make each other cards. So we kind of exchanged homemade cards.
Oh, that's lovely. Now, see, that is a Valentine's Day thing. I'm not saying that I'm not grateful for the flowers I've received, but I think that's a lovely couples tradition. If you want to participate in Valentine's Day, make each other something.
Yeah, we spent time together. So at the moment, this will hopefully change come the weekend. I hope it changes. But I've got no time. I've absolutely snowed under with work, and work is YouTube for me at the moment. There's just lots and lots of things for me to do and not enough hours in the day, which, as I say, will change. But because it's Valentine's Day, my wife went out and bought, close your ears, Patricia, some steaks and a bottle of pretend Prosecco. I don't drink and she's pregnant, so normally she would have real Prosecco, but we had fake Prosecco. And that was I actually got to spend probably wasn't even more than half an hour, but we spent time in each other's company with our kid screaming. But, that was very romantic.
It is romantic. I mean, I've been around you two, and I've just seen you enough on YouTube to know that you have a really solid relationship. And now you've got the new young one coming eventually, and you'll have even less time. Won't that be wonderful for you? You'll be doing YouTube videos with 2 children at your feet.
Yeah, well, I'm working from home, so effectively, although I can now say I'm a YouTuber, which maybe we'll come to on this show, I can say I'm a professional YouTuber.
You are. You've almost got 10,000 subscribers, right?
No. Since we last spoke. So
yes.
This is absolutely astonishing. Since we last spoke, I was under 10,000 subscribers.
Right.
Now I'm at something like 13,500 subscribers.
Yes. Congratulations. You deserve way more than that.
So although it hasn't been a full month since I was completely locked out of basically YouTube altogether, so on my statistics there's still a little tail end of nothing. But in terms of the statistics for the subscribers, if I could say it, they've just gone through the roof, and that's a combination of you, Red Pill Philosophy, and Jaren. And today I was told that Math had shouted me out as well in regards to debates. So I checked, and he's actually sent me an email saying words to the effect of, "I've created a monster," which I can't really deny, as Math did wake me up to flat Earth. So I don't know how much credit he should get assigned for me being a quote unquote monster, but that's
you
what he
were
said.
the first person who interviewed Matt.
I don't know if I was the first, because he certainly he had it would be 3 girlfriends ago, but
well, I just mean another show. Like, I know I interviewed him after you, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was off the radar in terms of wasn't really doing interviews and wasn't really making any sort of very public appearances. And then I talked him into doing them because I said he should be, and just pestered him, and eventually he agreed. But I think he's going to Edinburgh from the very short email he sent me, and he wants me to debate potentially off the back of something that he's doing up there. And I was like, yeah, sure. Just let me know when.
Love Edinburgh, love Scotland, definitely. Is he going there for an event of some sort, or just family, friends, sort of thing?
For the Fringe, but it's, as far as I was aware, the Fringe had just gone, so maybe it means in 2020. Yeah, who knows? He didn't give me very many details, but as I say, a few people have let me know that he'd shouted me out, and like I say, I checked and I got an email from him, and yeah, he's basically, as far as I'm aware, coming to Edinburgh Fringe and would like me to debate with him. With who I don't know, but that was
that's really great. That's great that he's blending with people in the so-called community, definitely. But don't sell yourself short. You're saying that, the reason your subs went up was due to, in part, people like Jaron or Matt or me or some other people, mentioning your channel. It's because of you and your idea to come up with these debates and doing something different than had been done before. People were debating flat Earth forever on YouTube, and before YouTube, in pubs across the plain. But you've made it into an actual solid show with a beginning, middle, and end, an entire framework, and a cast of characters that you have on the show. And it's a real show, and it has gained a following, not due to anyone else but you and those that you have around you. So congrats.
That might be true, and I'll take every compliment, but there's certain things in terms of the stats that tells me for certain that Jaron, especially the one video he did with the debate with Wiggles, he put a link to the video, and I can just see from the stats of how many people have gone after it went out live. And I know from how the stats will roll off pretty quickly because I do a daily show, whereas that video hasn't, which tells me only one thing: it's being linked to, and I know exactly which video is linking back to that Wiggles debate, and that would be Jaron's video. So I'm 99.9% certain that the vast majority of the growth has been off the back of that one video that Jaron did, but also because that's often backed up by the fact that if people have heard your name 2 or 3 times, like on your show, like on Red Pill's videos that he's been making, one specifically about me and a few others where he's just mentioned the show, that will, lead people to eventually subscribe. In other words, one great advert from a big YouTuber doesn't necessarily make you grow at all. I've had that in the past where a big YouTuber shouted me out. Eddie Bravo shouted me out, and I think I gained maybe 100 subscribers off it, which was great. But that at the time seemed like massive growth. I look at my subscriber count today, and in the last 28 days, I've grown 4,000 subscribers, which is just absolutely off the charts. I've never ever experienced growth like it. And, I'll take every bit of it. And you're right, I've got to have a show to actually gain people's interest for them to subscribe. In other words, shout outs to nothing because it's not really worth much. People aren't going to subscribe. There's no substance when they get there. But still, I know I owe Jaron and Red Pill and you, and I'm going to say it straight away, Anthony, a huge debt of gratitude, because Anthony was the one that was egging on Red Pill, Jaron, and several other people to actually cross-pollinate, I think was the terminology you used. So am I right, Anthony?
Yep. Yeah, that's it. My view was that because we were on the second wave of censorship, if you remember, the first wave was when YouTube were removing the flat earth tag from the beginning of video titles. And then the second wave is obviously we're not getting shout outs or recommendations from the side anymore. And instead we're getting all these so-called ball earth debunkers who aren't actually debunking anything other than like regurgitating the official narrative. I've been pushing recently, like, listen, we need to actually actively promote each other because that's what the ballers are actually doing. Mm-hmm. The ballers are wearing each other's T-shirts, I've noticed. Have you noticed that one?
No, but that's smart. I mean, I try my best to do what you say is cross-pollinating, good term, Anthony, and mention other channels and what they're doing, or after my show, blah, blah, blah is coming up. I did a show with Mark Sargent yesterday, which was the 13th of February, 2019, and mentioned that Red Pill was doing a debate. And then I went into that debate chat and saw a lot of the people that were in my show are now in that show. And
Exactly.
it's a great way to get people to move from point A to point B and still stay on the flat Earth trail.
You're the pioneer for this. So of all the people in flat Earth, you do this the most. Your show is predominantly about doing this, promoting flat earthers that people have not yet heard about to people of a wider audience. So that is your shtick. That's what you do.
I guess so. That is what I do, after all. Something. I do something.
Is because it used to really rattle my chain, because it became like you haven't shouted me out. My success has been limited by Patricia's inability to promote me efficiently. Do you remember? This is going back maybe 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, there were some people that were mad that I wasn't mentioning their channel, but meanwhile, while they were doing hit pieces on me, so I kind of don't feel like mentioning them. Doesn't really make any sense. But okay. All right. So last year at the opening of the Flat Earth UK convention, you did the opening, Nathan Oakley. And coming up, we've got something in 2019, which is in September, the 13th through the 15th, the Globe Lite Convention. That's in Kidderminster. I hope I'm saying that right. Are you going to be going to that one, attending that one, either one of you two guys?
Yes.
And then there's the one coming up in Amsterdam. Anybody have any details about what's happening there?
Yeah, I'm going to as well. Details? No.
No details.
Anybody's got any details at the moment, but yeah, the plan is that we're both planning on going. It's just a case of we don't really know any arrangements yet. But do you know what I want to do? If you don't mind, can I give a couple of shout outs before because we were on a tangent there that we've got off.
I just want to say I'll be in Amsterdam too. So.
Before you do, anybody else you know of, Patricia, that's going to Amsterdam?
Me, you,
yeah, you.
Yeah, I'm going to. And Zoe, Be Here in Love, and wow, a ton of people, that I have had a lot of exchanges with, especially Zoe, and haven't ever met in person. Of course, I've seen both of you two before. Bored of you two. Anyway, I don't know where Anthony just went to. Oh, you're back. So continue on where we were before we went off on this tangent. Go ahead, Anthony.
Right. Shout outs, right? I think we all need to, in my view, we all need to promote each other, the ones that don't know about each other, because the reality is without shout outs, we're not getting the promotion that we deserve. So obviously I'm going to reel off a couple of names that I watch regularly. Red Pill Philosophy, he started doing debates and stuff recently, and he's interested in flat earth in terms of questioning the ball, and he's going to start off with a slippery slope because it's not easy when you go head to head with people. So it's interesting to watch how he is now, and in 6 months' time, watch out what he'll be in 6 months' time, because he's going to be on a curve. So if you haven't subscribed to Red Pill,
he's not going to be on a curve. That's maybe the wrong
word. Can I add to that, Anthony, while you're doing these shout outs? So a few people have contacted me about Red Pill with fairly stern criticism of debates. Now, I've not actually seen the most recent with Godless Engineer, just haven't had time. But I saw the first one he did, and I thought it was great because it was the start of a baptism of fire. And Red Pill's not stupid. He will drastically improve very quickly. So if you want to watch a very interesting transition, if that's the right word, from ex-Globehead to flat earth superstar, Red Pill Philosophy is the one to watch. You'll watch his journey from this point on, which is why I'm smirking, because I know I've been through the same thing and I can see his journey beginning, and it's nice to be able to actually watch it happening to me. So it's great.
That's why so many people are intrigued by watching Owen Benjamin. I don't think the three of us have ever discussed Owen Benjamin's awakening. I love the videos that DITRH has put out. So if you don't have time to watch a whole Owen Benjamin live stream, and a lot of them really don't have anything to do with flat earth, so you're taking a chance when you watch one. But he will take the best bits out and make a video that explains, what Owen's talking about at that moment that's FE related. And it's a beautiful thing. However, I don't know if he ever is going to cross that bridge. he seems to be talking about it a lot, and he seems to be there almost 101%, but not coming out and saying, okay, I'm a flat earther. What do you two think about Owen Benjamin?
Who?
Okay. Owen Benjamin.
Thanks, Anthony.
He's fighting it, isn't he? That's the bottom line. He doesn't want it to be so, and who can blame him? You know, it's kind of, he's a great poster child for Mark Sargent's narrative of sort of fighting it. So, you know, you can see that progression as well. Similar thing to Red Pill, really. Mm-hmm. You can watch the journey going through, I don't want to be a flat earther, to explaining Antarctica and all the problems with the globe. So, yeah, again, he gets it. And he probably more than most, being a bit more of a public figure, probably gets the ridicule and thinks, I'm just guessing, that the best way to attack it is to come from the position of skepticism for flat earth, whilst basically putting all the best arguments forward. I think that's great. From our perspective, it's wonderful. You know, him saying he doesn't like the social stigma that comes along with it. Well, why would you? And why wouldn't you want to discuss that if you're a public figure, if you're discussing the subject? So I think it's quite a well-balanced approach, and a very honest approach. You know,
yes.
I see a lot of honesty in the way he's approaching it, despite the fact that I know deep down inside he's got a method to his madness. I know he's approaching it from a certain angle.
Right. He's thought it out. He's not just winging it and showing us his true feelings of his awakening. He was doing that in the beginning, but now I think he really is fully awake, but he's letting it out piece by piece and acting as if he doesn't want to be a flat earther. And he's not quite sure, but then, like you said, he'll give you all the proofs right there in the same exact conversation. And he's never saying anything anti-flat at all. I haven't heard him say anything anti-flat anyway.
It reminded me of, speaking of the opening of the last year's English conference, Anthony had a really good line, and he's explaining that you come to flat earth and you get ridicule and abuse and hassle, and that's just from the flat earthers.
So true on that one. But you know, the ridicule from fellow flat earthers, it sounds bad, and you know, you can let it get to you, but the reality of it is they're still watching your videos and giving you a view, even if they're giving you a thumbs down if you have your thumbs enabled, and they're still making hit piece videos on you, which, as you call them, Nathan, they're advertisements. So people will see those and think, wait a minute, I've never seen that person before that you're making fun of. Let me go look. And some that go look will eventually subscribe. Some won't. But, you know.
Do you know where I first got the idea from that? Well, not first got the idea, but first really realised in my own experience that was true. So you know who Jungle Surfer is, right?
Of course I do.
I know you're not a big fan of Jungle Surfer, but
not
nevertheless.
Really.
Nevertheless,
he's too conspiratorial without proof. However, sometimes he has great points.
Sure, but he kept on slagging off a guy called Spudgy Pang. I don't know if you're familiar.
I've heard the name, but I have no idea. No.
Just moans about Spudgy this and Spudgy that, and he's slagging him off and debunking him, etc., etc., etc.
You know what? I have an urge now to look up Spudgy Pang.
Exactly.
Yes, I want to know who that is. Well, I might watch a few. I might go to my phone, look up Spudgy Pang. Interesting. Subscribe.
Right. So all his slagging off and moaning and whatever he was putting him down for eventually led me to that guy's channel. Sorry if you're watching, but that's just the way it goes. You know, it doesn't matter how negative you are about somebody. Eventually, someone's going to go, well, let's check that person out then, and off they go.
In politics, they have mudslinging campaigns where somebody will dig up dirt on a particular, you know, politician who's running against them. One campaign manager does it, you know, and then the other campaign manager counters, and they're both talking about the other person. And some of the accusations sound so far-fetched. You as the person who's voting, and I don't vote, but you go look and just see, who is this demon that they're talking about? And then you go and you read about the person, if you're a person who's in the system and into the voting, and you think, well, they're really rather nice. Maybe I'll vote for them. You know, so anyway, all right. From the haters to the shout outs. Back to that, Anthony.
Yes. Arwin is in chat. He's coming up to his 100th show for the Early Bird Show. And I'll be honest, I didn't think he'd do it. And he deserves a massive shout out because he does put the time in, and he gets a lot of flack, as we all do, but he gets his an unfair volume of flack, I think. And I think he needs to be shouted out and praised and supported, and we should shout each other out. And he's fully deserved of his shout out. Nathan, what do you think?
I definitely think so. Yeah, Arwen's ace, and I'll say that continually. People, similar story, but probably to a much greater extent than Red Pill philosophy. People are always moaning to me about Arwen. It's like, what the hell is your problem? Arwen got a lot of this stuff considerably before Anthony Ranty got it.
Yeah,
and he was saying it over and over, with many instances with us ridiculing him, going, "Oh yeah, shut up with your optical slant." Now, totally different ball game, because we've finally got what he got ages ago. So anybody who slaps Arwen doesn't understand how smart he actually is.
I like him as a person. And that's how I come to my opinions about everybody in Flat Earth. I'm not the one that's looking at the science. I have figured that greater minds than mine have looked into the science. I have looked at the superficial aspects of Flat Earth. After all, Flat Earth Clues is what woke me up, and that is your basic 101 stuff. I look at the people in Flat Earth and the people in the globe and the human psychology. That's where I'm coming from. And so that's why I like a person based on who they are, as opposed to a lot of times what they're some people don't like Arwen because they don't like his face. I mean, it's just the reasons people have for disliking others are so stupid. I think Arwen's a good guy.
Often we look at his face and think, God, we hate you.
All right, I'll give two more.
I'll give
two more and then we can move on.
Arwen got hit piece videos made because we did an interview and they were incredibly unfair, but I'm sure he got more subscribers because of it. I hope so. So everyone subscribe to Arwen.
Yes, go and subscribe to Arwen. I'll do two more, then we can move on. Taboo Conspiracy is a long running. He finds clips from new people that I don't know how he finds them. He must have people giving them to him, because I never see these videos, but he finds new content from new people that go out and do observations. And if you're not familiar with Taboo Conspiracy's channel, make sure you go and subscribe to him, because he's got some really cool first person perspective evidence that's fab. And obviously it's all pro Flat Earth. And the last one I'll give is Ranty Flat Earth. He's not in chat. Oh, yeah, he is. He's in chat now. He's currently buying his first house, isn't he? So he's not been as active as what he should be, really.
Well, congratulations
but once he gets his house,
on the first house. That's great.
Yeah. So massive shout out to Ranty, because he does a lot of dirty work as well, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves. So make sure that you go into literally Arwen and Ranty Flat Earth in chat right now, and obviously shout out to me as well. I'll have one too.
All right, shout out to Sleeping Warrior. Subscribe to his channel. But I do want to also mention that I have interviewed every single person that you gave a shout out to. So I'm keeping up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Or the Flat Earth people, anyway.
Regular content,
So, what you guys were talking about earlier about conspiracy cats and that he's a teacher and he's teaching the children. I wanted to touch on, let's just say you're in charge of the world. And the world is the way it is now, with some people believing it's flat and the greater number of people believing that we live on a globe. What do you think, if you were in charge of the curriculum, should be taught to children? What do you want taught to your children? I'll ask you first, Nathan.
Definitely not nonsense. So Anthony's current campaign is in regards to the lack of scientific validity for the Copernican model. And if we're going to be taught stuff as true and factual, then it should be true and factual. If it's taught in a science class, it should be science. That's basic stuff, I think. I don't think that's unreasonable.
That makes complete sense, but I do know that there are people out there who, mainstream media people, who do interviews of flat earthers, and they are appalled when they find out that flat earthers have taught their own children the flat earth model, or we don't really have a flat earth model, but the flat earth thought process, or some of the facts of flat earth. And they're mad at us, and they think we are brainwashing children. And of course, we say that they've been brainwashed by the globe. So I don't know what I would do if I were a parent and had a child in school right now. I guess they would have to learn the model that's being presented. But then at home, you teach them the true model, or the true way the world works. And let them know that there's no strict model yet, but people are working on their versions. But wouldn't that confuse a child? Is a child able to hold that in their head, that many different... Can a child live in a world, grow up, knowing that there really is no consensus on where they live?
Well, there is a consensus. The consensus is nonsense and kind of.
Well, yes, but if you're the mother and father or, parent figures are teaching the child flat, and in school they teach them globe, is that going to mess with the child's head?
That's what I was going to say. But I think both are wrong. So as much as it might piss a lot of your audience off, I think there are a lot of brainwashing flat earthers out there, and they've got a lot of wrong ideas, a lot of misconceptions. And one of the things that we try to be very careful about not doing during the debate is making claims, especially claims from incredulity. So if you don't need to make an assertion about something that you don't know, just don't make the assertion. If assertions are being made about things that clearly can't be known, then you more than, you should point that out. But explaining, or at least me and my kid as she grows up, or both of them as they grow up, my motivation won't be to teach them a model or teach them how things are as far as I am concerned. But there's plenty of flat earthers out there who would put their stamp on how the world works. And in a lot of instances, they'll do it with the backing of the same level of circus parlor show tricks that the globe side uses. So this is something that hopefully going forward will stamp out more and more as people start to understand scientific terminology a bit better. And moreover, maybe this will link into the National Geographic thing. But as people realize that we've been swindled by a system that's told us what science actually is, an empirical method of proving things, and then immediately afterwards, in the same classroom with the banner of science over the door, told us something that is not science, that has no adherence to this method, that is not empirical. And National Geographic are they typify that exact situation. They say flat earthers are ignoring 2,000 years of empirical scientific evidence. Those were the exact words the woman used. You don't have any scientific evidence, let alone 2,000 years of empirical scientific evidence. And yet the guy she's got sat next to her is a pseudoscientist. He's not a scientist. He's an astrophysicist. So he's observing one step in the scientific method, which is to say he can observe a phenomena. That's it. Can he vary the presumed cause of the phenomena he sees in the sky? Of course not.
Yeah.
We're being taught what our world is by pseudoscientists. And to bring it back on track, in terms of the education of children, critical thought is what I would say is the requirement, but not taught in schools. Parroting is what's taught in schools. Repeat after me, repeat it in a test format, and make sure you get the answer we've told you to give. Don't necessarily teach children in schools how to critically think at all. So you end up with parrots as opposed to critical thinkers. And like I say, in the debate, we go out of our way to not make claims, even in the face of people straw men that try to use our claims to build up a false example of a claim we have not made. The most recent or the most common is the dome. I've made no assertion. No one's ever going to put quote marks around me saying we've got a dome. It doesn't change the fact that I can point out that the necessary antecedent for gas pressure is a container. That doesn't mean I'm asserting anything about the sky, which I know nothing about and don't claim to and don't need to in order, final point, I will get there, in order to pummel an incorrect assertion. So if someone's going to claim they do know what the sky is, I do not. I've not been. I am not going to see what makes up the sky. I don't know. That's the basic answer and the only answer I can truthfully give. But the people who do say they know what the sky is, 10 to the minus 17 vacuum, well, they're lying. That's all I can.
I love it. For more information about what Nathan is discussing on National Geographic, I know there's been many videos on it. I was there at the Salton Sea when they were doing all of their, I don't know, what they thought was tearing flat earth to shreds, but really it only showed their flaws and their thinking, their brainwashing, the whole National Geographic crew. But of course, they've been doing that ever since they put the moon landing on the first National Geographic, back in the 60s on the cover of National Geographic magazine. I mean, they're part of the whole system. But the video on Nathan's channel is called National Geographic Pseudoscience, where he goes into depth in a discussion of what he just spoke of. Here's a question about Flat earthers. You mentioned the dome. There are many flat earthers who would want to fight to death with you for saying that, because they truly feel there's a dome. I see it as a belief, but that is their prerogative to believe such a thing. What are some of the other things that flat earthers say that make either one of you grit your teeth because it's not something that you could use in a debate and win the debate if you're a flat earther? Anthony?
Don't know. I tell you what, let me answer your previous question, because Nathan answered it and I didn't get to answer it.
Oh, sorry.
Your question was, what would you do if you were in charge of the national curriculum?
I forgot. Of course.
What I would do is I would say, right, I'm pro live and let live. I'm quite liberal. As long as you're not ramming it down my throat, I'm all right with whatever you believe. If you believe this, you believe the other, I don't really care. Just don't try preaching it to me, because I don't really appreciate it, if I'm honest. But what I would say is that it's fine for them to learn a model, but they should also learn the critical side to it, the bits that contradict. Because if they get told things like, well, the sun's 93 million miles away, full stop, and not get told anything more, then you're kind of limited, because you should be told things like, well, we don't actually know that the sun is a tangible physical object that you can throw stones at. We believe it's a tangible object, but it doesn't actually mean that it is. And they should tell for things that are the limitations of what their current model is, rather than leaving that bit silent, letting you think that it's all done and dusted and that there's no discussion there. Because there are contradictions on the model, and like the gas pressure one into the vacuum of space is obviously another one. You don't get told that that's a direct issue that stimulates intellectual or intelligent conversation. So what I would do is, teach them whatever you want to teach them, but don't hide the contradictions. Teach them the contradictions too, so that they learn both sides to it. It shouldn't be a one-way street. It should be, this is what we believe it is, but we haven't got any evidence that proves it. We think it's this because of that, but there are problems with it, and these are the problems. And if you want to know more about it, you'll have to go and do a bit of research yourself, because the reality is we don't really know what is up there. We see these lights flying around, and they don't really look like planets. They've got too much reflection on them for me personally, and I see them as lights. Are they real? Maybe. Are they tangible? Maybe. Are they definitely tangible? Definitely not. They could be argued to be like some kind of manifestation or concentration of light or projection, or who knows. But my point is that I would teach them the model, but I would also say this is the best that we understand it to be. These are the contradictions with it, and you'll get more marks in your test if you write down the contradictions with the model than what you will if you parrot me back that the sun's 93 million miles away. Because at least that way people are aware of the contradictions and the issues that need to have more conversation, rather than get told nothing about the contradictions and are led to believe by silence that this stuff settle physics, and it's just not.
Well, that teaches critical thinking, which is always good. However, it leaves that uncertainty aspect. And is it okay for children to not know that adults, the people who are in charge of their welfare, they're going to grow up thinking adults don't have a handle on things, and we don't, let's face it. So is that going to give them that needed feeling of safety that children have to grow up mentally well?
No, I think it'd do the opposite. It'd make them ask the inquisitive questions, like, well, because I'm sure everybody will remember back to the classroom incident where somebody said, well, how does water stick to the underside of the ball, miss? And then she comes back and says, well, gravity explains it. And 10 minutes later, you all get it. But if they ask the inquisitive questions, like, well, we think that this is how the atmosphere acts, but it's against the vacuum of space, and we don't quite understand exactly how it separates it. But this is what we currently think, but it's a defiance of a law of nature called entropy. And all right, it may be too much too soon, but on the other hand, it will make them ask questions, and they'll go home and they'll say, Dad, we were talking about this today in school and I didn't get it. Can you explain it? And Dad will be like, no, I never got told that when I went to school, son. So I can just imagine kids asking all the inquisitive questions without fear of being told, shut up, sit down, go and sit in the back of the room. Do you know, because I know people have reported that they were asking all the obvious questions that we would ask as adults and being told to go and sit in the back of the room because they were seen as a disruptive influence. But that really is the best way of learning, because if kids see issues that adults know the answers to, or think they know the answers to, or brainwash them with the answers to, that is the best way to learn, because it is going to promote conversation in the classroom that isn't there currently, because they just go, yeah, 93 million miles away, end of sentence. And
maybe
it's wrong.
children will have the answers because they are less indoctrinated at that age. Eventually, they might be the ones to crack this thing wide open. Okay, so give you the question. Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry.
Who's the one with the power? The person with the power is the person with the answers. Well, if you're raising critical thinkers who might discover their own answers, then you're relinquishing your power. So school isn't designed to develop critical thinkers. It's designed to develop good workers.
So true. So true. You make it all so clear. Well, the only problem I have is when there is a child who is using critical thinking and is speaking up in class, and the parents have backed them on that because the parents have told them about the flat earth model and the school has taught them about the globe model. What happens when that child, says what he says, and then the teacher says, well, what about, NASA and what NASA has done? And then the child is has to come to the understanding that the amount of lies about the world that they live in is huge. I mean, we didn't go to the moon and there's no International Space Station. And when Tim Peake and the crew flew over, I'm putting it in UK terms because you guys flew over our school, we talked to him and he said he was on the space station. Were they lying to me, Mommy?
Well, think about it in this context. When you have kids, every kid goes through that phase where why is the next word out of the mouth always for about 6 months. Everything follows, like whatever you say to them, it's why, because they want to learn, right? At that point in life when they're asking why, if that's like happens to coincide with other kids also asking the same question, and it also coincides with things like in school where you're being taught about this solar system and all that inquisitive nature that they have that's really annoying, that will filter through into everybody's doing like psyche, and they'll all be asking, well, why does that happen? And teachers won't be able to segregate them and say, get in the corner, you've got autism or whatever they'll come up with, ADHD or whatever. They'll answer the questions critically, answer the questions like with more openness, and that's the only way I think that we can ever snap out of this like this ridiculous paradigm that we're in, which is basically it's being parroted to you in a one-way street that's literally brainwashing, because we all know there's issues and it drives me mad. Anyway.
One of the things we were talking about, because now both you and Nathan have answered the question, is some of the things that flat earthers say that you wouldn't allow in a debate. And one of the things that I don't like when I hear flat earthers say is that NASA is Hebrew for the word deceive. It isn't. And I've heard flat earthers say that. That bothers me. I understand that perhaps that they're coming from a very good place and these flat earthers aren't lying, but it's one of those things that gets said and then gets repeated and it becomes truth. So what do you guys think about that? And can you name another one like that?
Yes. The horizon always rises to eye level.
I've said that because I've been in a plane and I've seen it happen.
Well, it technically doesn't. It's subject to how far you can see on the day. So the further you can see, the higher the horizon is. But if you can't see that far because it's misty or foggy or whatever, the horizon is lower because you're not seeing right up the plane.
It's still true though, but it's got a caveat attached. So
it's true because it doesn't fall away at the rate that it should do on a sphere.
No, right. A bit clear. At a fundamental level, you're right, Patricia. The horizon rises to eye level.
But
well, there's a caveat, and Anthony's already given it. Yes, it's dependent on the day. So your horizon will be closer to you if you've got a limited amount of visibility on that day.
Yeah,
but you can't.
And the other thing is,
and as you get further up, that tiny amount that the horizon hasn't dropped, if you want to compare it and contrast it to the globe nonsense, well, the amount that it hasn't dropped as you rise in elevation couldn't go on forever anyway, because it's going into a more and more limited angle. So the amount that it does go up on a more clear day is to your perception only a tiny amount anyway. So these tiny amounts that Anthony's talking about, you can see them through the lens of a P900 or a P1000 if you're really being critical. And same goes for refraction. But in realistic terms, with your naked eye, the horizon rises to eye level. Yes, there are some idiosyncrasies, is that the right word? Some characteristics of the horizon that if you go into great detail about it, you can get quite fussy about. But at a fundamental level, the horizon rises with you. And as Anthony pointed out, if you lived on a ball, all it would ever do is fall away the moment you started to raise in altitude. It doesn't.
Yes. I mean, I've told people that you can just imagine sitting down at a table with a basketball next to you, and then you stand up and you look down. I know that's a very bad analogy, but you can see that the ball shape so clearly, and that's what would happen on a much larger scale if you were rising up on an airplane eventually when you got higher. What are the other things, if there are any?
So part of the debate that we had ended up in a change being made to the Metabunk curve calculator in an advanced tab that included the amount of horizon curve. In other words, the amount that it should dip down based on the geometry. Simple mathematics of a sphere dictates that through the lens of a P900, again, we're talking about the finite details when we talk in these terms, you should be able to see the horizon dropping away from you at ground level. You know, that's in the maths. So when people say, oh, no, it's too small to see, no, we've got super zoom cameras and the amount should be measurable. You should see a curve immediately and it should get progressively more and more curvy as you go up. Does it? Heck, no.
Yeah.
The horizon fundamentally rises to eye level. There are some details if you want to get really fussy about it, but it certainly isn't dropping away. And this was like day one demonstrations. So after Math Powerland, I found Rory Cooper, who'd been doing it probably as long as Math Powerland. And he had illustrations of a balloon rising up with the graphic of different colored textures so you could distinguish what was happening, rising up on a ball and rising up on a flat plane. The horizon rises to eye level on a flat plane. Yes, you've got some various different slight nuances that you could add into that if you wanted to. But ultimately speaking, on a ball, it falls away from you immediately. Now, this can be explained away by globe heads with double speak, but it doesn't change that fact. You're on a globe, you should see a bloody curve. More of it.
Yeah.
If you look up the word NASA in the dictionary, it means a bunch of different things, but it means to arise, to bear, to bring, to carry away, which does make sense with the word NASA, but it doesn't in Hebrew. That's what it makes. I mean, that's what it means. Not to deceive. I don't know how that got started. I have no idea, but it has spread like wildfire through the flat Earth community. And I don't fault anybody for taking that ball and running with it too much. But whenever you hear something that's too good to be true, definitely check yourself. Don't just say it. And this happened to me in normal everyday life that has nothing to do with flat Earth. Somebody I know said they were going to be opening up a bar and they were going to partner with the Kardashians, and asked me what I thought about that in Houston. I said, ooh, don't partner with the Kardashians. That's crazy. And then he said, oh, they have this great idea. They want to do a bar or pub or something, a big glamorous place, and they want to call it Go Sip. And I thought, why Go Sip? And they said, oh, well, because everyone loves gossip about the Kardashians. And the word gossip emanates from the words go sip back in Old English pubs. And I said, no, it doesn't, because it's just one of those things that this person was saying that wasn't true. And I looked it up and he was wrong. However, everybody at his workplace, and we're talking about high tone, wealthy business people that have lots of money to start businesses working with Kardashians, were parroting the fact that gossip comes from the root words go sip. And it took me, an uneducated high school graduate, flat earther, to tell them that it doesn't mean that at all. Stop saying it. And that's how human beings are. So if something sounds too good, before you tell others and before you put it on YouTube or before you start a business based on it, research it yourself. This really is about doing your own research. Are there any other things you've heard flat earthers say?
It is convince people. They'll just listen to any old crap and parrot it because they've been trained to do so at school. Whereas, most people don't know the word etymology. You put in any word into Google with the word etymology afterwards, and it'll tell you the origins, where it came from in great detail from about 10 different sources. So when someone says, oh, did you know the origins of this word? Type it in, etymology, and then you can find out for yourself if they're talking utter nonsense, which most of the time they are.
Right. And it doesn't mean the person's bad that they've done this. It just means they haven't done enough research. So
we've got Russian vids in chat right now saying NASA equals to deceive. Shout out to Russian vids.
I'm on with Russian vids tomorrow. He and I are doing a show on February 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So That'll be a fun show. And Russian Vids on his channel made a promo for our show together. And he said he was going to put music from the Smiths in it because I love the Smiths. So I can't wait to get this show over with so I can listen to the promo by Russian Vids. Anyway, I'll put it in the description box. All right, let's hear the other one.
When someone says, "Oh, ranty flat Earth in numerical gematria," it means 33 or 666 or whatever. Everything appears to be 666 or whatever. It's like, oh my god.
Well, some things are 33. Some things are.
That might be true, but everything seems to narrow down to those numbers. It seems.
There's a channel called Flat Earth Data, and I hate to give them any. Everyone's going to go subscribe now, like going back to what we were talking about earlier. But they come in to varying channels, and they say whatever the channel name is equals 33. It doesn't matter whose channel it is. And they'll say that either your first name or your channel name. Go ahead.
That's Flat Earth Data, you say?
Yes.
We had him on today.
So what's up with that guy? What type of gematria calculator is he using? I know there's several, but he's using one where every single flat earther's name or channel equals 33.
Right, let's test it. Let's do Nathan Oakley. Somebody do it in chat. I don't know how you do it, but someone do Nathan Oakley 1980 and see if it comes down to 33. And do Sleeping Warrior and see if it comes down. Everything seems to come down to 33.
And they say Patricia Steere comes to 33.
Yeah.
Search gematria calculator, Anthony, and you can do it yourself.
Well, there's actually 3 different kinds of gematria, I think, or maybe more. So I have no idea. But the thing is that my birth name is Patricia Steere. Okay, Patricia Lynn Steere, Lynn. And so that would mean my parents at one time back in 1962 or, whenever they decided on my name before I was born in 63, went in and decided to come up with a 33 name to name me. So because they knew that today in 2019, I'd be doing this. Does that make any sense to anybody out there? No.
Yes, that makes total sense. It's all a conspiracy.
Certainly is. My parents were undercover Masons, I guess, or something. Or whoever is responsible for the 33 names. I have a picture.
Yeah, that's just your actual backstory, isn't it? I mean, realistically, your name's not actually Patricia Steere, is it?
No, it's not. The thing about being, my dad owned a radio station. I've told the story many times. And when I started working for him, I worked the graveyard shift, which at this AM station was 7 to midnight. The station shut down at midnight, just playing records. And my dad said, because the radio station WKMI, the tagline was Steere Broadcasting Corporation. And my dad said, we don't want you to use your real name because it'll be, they'll be like DJ, like last name Steere. You have to come up with something else. Well, at the time, and this is way back in the 80s, there was a football player who was making news headlines, and I don't care at all for sports, named Marcus Dupree. Now, the newspaper was laying on the table where I was when I was talking on the phone to my dad. And I said, what about Pat Dupree, because it was right there. So my very first radio name was Pat Dupree. I bet that equals 33. Who knows? So I couldn't use my real last name. And the name Patricia Steere, unless you say it very clearly, sounds like Patricia Shear. So it's really not the best sound for a radio name at all. But I'm stuck with it, and I kind of sort of like it. So anybody come up with any gematria in the chat? Anthony, I see you looking.
Well, Bob's saying that we're all 33, but I don't know if he's actually done it. I'm not sure it is. Maybe it is, I don't know. But
I have pictures on my Facebook, and there is a picture of me. What is up with this? This is really annoying. A picture of me when I was 33. It's on my Facebook. It's been there since 2009 or 7, or whenever I open Facebook. And it says I'm 33 in this picture. There's other pictures that say, here I am at 22, here I am at 19, here I am at 7. But on that picture, I deleted all the comments. When I started in Flat Earth, people found that picture, the kind of people who want to make hit piece videos on you. And they were making a big to-do about that picture, the fact that I was 33. Everybody who lives to 34 was 33 once. And it means absolutely nothing. It's a number, unless it purposely is done to mean something, as a signal to others. So, I know there's people watching this right now who are 33 years old. You're in trouble. So we don't have any confirmation. Oh, by the way, what flat Earth data? Nathan, I blew right by that. He was on with you guys on the flat Earth debate. Did he give any explanation for the channel that he started or his obsession with the number 33 and all the flat earthers?
No, not at all. I didn't even know who he was. So he's just another guest as far as I was concerned. But obviously with a name like Flat Earth Daddy, you would assume he's a Flat Earth friendly, or at the very least a Flat Earth.
I subscribed to him for half a second. And then, I saw him in other chats writing Patricia Steere equals 33. Globebusters equals 33. Bob Nodell. You just go to any chat and he'll be there. So,
I've got an interesting story for you. I've been running that coffee shop whilst I had a bit of time, and it was just while Nathan was off. It was driving me nuts not having someone to chat about. So I just set up the coffee shop in the meantime, and I quite enjoy doing it when I've got.
For those who don't know what you're talking about.
Just go to my channel. It's just it's an informal, not offensive. It's like a debate, but not a debate. It's
so
like
coffee and donuts.
Chat. Yeah. It's just a chat. You come with a coffee and donut, and that's about it. And we just chat. And I delete them after 24 hours because I don't see them as somewhat worthy of incriminating somebody for the rest of their lives. It's just a conversation.
Don't think you should delete it, Nathan. I bet you agree with me.
Say that again, Patricia.
Well, he says he deletes his, coffee and donuts, coffee shop shows. I don't think he should delete them. What do you think?
Definitely not.
I knew you'd say that.
I might stick him in a playlist. But anyway, the point is, I had an intro that was really, really good from Mr. Cheswick about Simon Dan and all that lot, Soundly and all that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the best music video out there, right? But
he's a very talented musician. He's a very quick guy.
He is.
But he's super duper paranoid.
Yeah. So get this, right? Because he didn't like some of the spanners that I gave in my chat, which is basically for their own protection so that they don't get immediately hidden by other mods.
Wrenches, for those who don't know spanners, what you UK boys call them.
Okay, so I had to give, for example, Conspiracy Cats, right? He's the enemy, but I've given him a spanner so that he actually doesn't get hidden immediately. Same for people like Dawn Treader and Chris MCM. They know they're going to get hidden immediately. So it was just because they're not that bad. They can be, but they're not that bad, generally speaking. But the point was, he didn't like the associations that I was giving spanners to, and one of his authorities for not giving, for retracting the permission for using his song, was because I associate with Patricia Steere.
Wow, and he's done a bunch of hit pieces with me, and he said that Roxanne Glenn is the Patricia Steere of the UK, and that. Roxanne and John Smith Globalize, he's the Mark Sargent of the UK, and that they, quote, have been put in place like Mark and I have. I'm like, really?
Nonsense.
I think Roxanne's her own individual human being doing her own individual stuff, which is great. Same thing as John Smith. And I'm looking forward to meeting Roxanne in Amsterdam. So, yeah. And I bet, what's his name again? Mr. Cheswick will have a field day when he sees Roxanne and I standing together. We'll have a heart attack.
It's complete nonsense. I mean, us UK guys have got a totally different handler to you guys.
That's true.
Well, what really bugged me about it was that the fact that he gave me permission, then he withdrew it, right? And he gave his reasons for why. And he did a dedicated video rather than just message me, right? I mean, I'm contactable. It's not as if I'm hiding from anybody. He can just message me. That's how I got his permission in the first place. But rather than just message me and say, look, I've got issue with this, and I'd have just said, fine. He did a dedicated video saying, requesting permission from Anthony, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, bloody hell. So I acknowledged it, said, all right, no worries. And I said, do me a favor, just remove this video because it's basically a drama magnet. I just didn't want to be associated with it. I said, fine, I'll not use it anymore. Just remove this video because I've acknowledged it. Now that should be the end of it. But he kept it up, right? And I was like, well, you're just creating drama at my expense. I get enough as it is, and I could do with it less from our side of it. Just remove it. I've acknowledged it. Remove this video and we're good. He wouldn't remove it. So what I did was I deleted the thread that I'd started where I acknowledged it. And then he was complaining that I'd deleted the thread. But the point is, you're creating drama for no reason. And I don't see why you would do that. So I removed the thread, and now he's like, why has he done this? And someone said, because his dad's an ex-cop and he must be a Mason and all this nonsense. And I'm like, these are the reason why I don't. Flat Earthers are literally, we have half of us are normal on our side, and the other half are batshit crazy.
I fire with that. I thought it was brilliant fun. So I got a phone call because I saw the Mr. Cheswick video come out, and I watched it, and went through the comments, and there's Anthony going, "Look, you're just creating drama." So my response was to call Anthony a shill and basically back Mr. Cheswick completely.
I saw that. I saw that comment, and I'm like, wait, have Nathan and Anthony had a falling out? I thought that for a split second, and then I realized, oh yeah, Nathan's humor. Got it.
I'm just messing around, but it got a phone call, so I'd made the comment and just, I just did it on the way out of the door. I can't remember, I was going some class or something of that description. Anyway, I'm halfway to the class, and the phone rings. I'm like, oh, bloody hell. So I pull over, take the phone call. Hello? What do you want? It's like, somebody's faking your account. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, somebody's called me a shill, swear word, in the comments of this video. I'm like, no, that was me. It's like, what are you doing calling me a shill? It's like, oh, I just thought it'd be funny.
But what was worse, it didn't make grammatical sense. So I'm reading it. I had to read it about 5 times to work out what the hell is he trying to say. So I was more of a moan at him.
Too. So I make it slightly disjointed so that on first inspection, because I've got a lot of sock accounts, I like people to immediately think, that can't be Nathan. Click on my icon and find it is me, because I think that's quite funny. I've just got a strange sense of humor.
Yeah,
but I ended up moaning at him because it didn't make grammatical sense, and I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi. It's like, Nathan, there needs to be a fucking comma in there somewhere. Put a comma in it, for God's sake.
You're going to troll me, Nathan. Put a comma there.
I'm going to take on the persona of a troll, right? So there's going to be spelling errors. It's not going to make grammatical sense.
Well, I think I'm all for doing that sort of thing. And that's why I'm starting to let everyone know Valentine's Day, these flowers were sent by MGTV to me. Everyone, please spread that around because it's true. Totally true. You guys know. And this,
I was wondering,
I said earlier.
Oh,
hang on. How do you know it was from MGTV?
No, I know. And this giant dozen beautiful roses that, there's a card. That's sent from a guy named Rock Lover and Flat Earth Reset. They shared the cost.
No, I'm not having that. How do you know it's from them?
Oh, no, it is.
How do you know?
Just spread it. Just spread the truth. What I'm saying is that the unsubstantiated things that those particular channels say is equal to what I just said. Everyone get it now?
It's been backed by Star Gods. Star Gods was the...
Star Gods also chipped in on the big bouquet. Thanks, Star Gods.
Exactly. And he was the one who spread it out and told everyone.
I'm calling this disinfo.
Go ahead if you want.
I want to see the little card. Have you got the card? Come on, show us the card.
And I'm going to do exactly what they do. I'm going to hide my address, although those people have already doxed my address. Here's the card. Name blocked off. There's the proof right there.
Oh, right. Must be true then. Well.
Exactly. Anyway, that is how these sorts of things happen. Something that kind of is true. She got flowers. And then other stuff that's not true attached to it and pinned on other people. So that's how it happens.
This is a completely approved narrative, Anthony. This has had Dave's tick. Dirth has said it's okay.
Since he is our handler. Interesting. Okay, so there was other things we were going to be talking about. Oh, did you guys see the Phuket word mirror of the video that came out? And I wanted either one of you two to give me a kind of a layperson's explanation of this video. You guys know the one I'm talking about.
Tombola?
Jaslo111 did the video.
The wireframe thing.
Yes, the wireframe thingy. And
it looks just like a tombola. That's with a pizza in the middle. Oh, come on. The lottery thing, the raffle thing.
Oh, what do we call that in America? Oh, you spin it, a basket, I guess.
We call it, that's right, isn't it, Nathan? A tombola.
Yeah, we call it a tombola. It's just like a hexagon-shaped thing that you put all tickets in, spin it round, and then take a ticket out at random.
I don't think we call it that. I think we just called it a basket in America. How embarrassing for us.
All right, so it basically looks just like what he had, but it's like you can't see in it. But you slowly spin it, and it mixes everything up, and that's basically what it is. But I looked at it and I thought that's really artistic. But I wonder how does it work with the extremities of the four corners? Like Alaska and then South America, South east of Australia and then like northern Russia. I wonder how it would work on that in relation to the way the sun's perceived. Because I reckon with a little bit of a lensing effect, you'd probably be able to get it right if you got the right lens.
Well, Fouquet-Ward and Jasla, they're kind of saying that one of these tombola models would be great to have in every classroom next to the globe to give children an idea of an alternate model. Do you, either one of you, think that's a good idea? Silence.
No, you need to test it more, wouldn't you? Because it'd be
Right.
the worst thing in the world if it didn't actually work.
Well, Fouquet says it would give them the it would train their cognitive skills, and that part I think it definitely would. I don't think the globe trained my skills, because I remember thinking people are standing upside down. That's weird. And then I was assured or reassured by the teacher that indeed they were. And my natural curiosity was quashed, and I moved on with my life believing we lived on a globe. So,
Okay. I mean, I'm going to say no. It wouldn't be a good idea to have it in classrooms, and I'll qualify why. So hopefully Anthony will back me up on this. What we're taught in schools is the heliocentric model, and it's a way of describing the world that we live in. And it describes the world we live in as being spherical. Now, the reality is that we don't live on a model. To assert that we live on a model is known as a reification fallacy. That is to say that you reify, bring into existence something that is not real, i.e. a model. So to assert that, if you look up reification, just go to Wikipedia, it says words to the effect of the map is not the terrain, we do not live on a model. Those are the actual words used to describe a reification fallacy. So in essence, having a model reified by children is part of the brainwashing. So if you just present an alternative model, you're still indoctrinating them in the process of reification. So for me, you know, when we were talking earlier about kids when they're presented with Tim Peake, you know, well, I spoke to him while he was in space. Well, no, if you explain to them that you can't have gas pressure without a container, it wouldn't matter every single aspect, bar none, about the reification fallacy that is the heliocentric model falls apart when you have that statement. You can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. Therefore, that entire idea and everything that surrounds it, everything in space, all of the travel, going to the moon, satellites, it all falls to pieces. The sphere itself hanging in an infinite vacuum, it falls apart. So teaching kids how to critically think, as opposed to what the indoctrination system currently does, which is teaches them how to reify a model. They even tell you, that's why I think it's dupe as delight. They call it what it is, the heliocentric model. Well, at a base level, people don't understand that we don't live on a model.
It's true. It's like gravity is a theory, evolution is a theory, but we're taught these things as if they're facts. I don't think they ever said theory of gravitation when I was in school, or the evolutionary theory. I don't remember that at all. It was just, here's how it is, and learn it, repeat it for the test, and then you're free to go. Let
me answer that as well, because we're only getting one answer on. It's like, this is a really good question. First off, shout out to, what was her name? Didn't catch her name. Shout out to Carol White. She's just subbed, and also to Pants Kangsensky. Just had 2 subs in the last 10 minutes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, I said I was lonely in chat.
I'm going to write, I'm lonely in chat. I'm lonely. Yeah. Love me, please.
Sub to me, I'm lonely. So would I put that in the classroom? Do you know what I'd actually do? I would agree with Nathan, but for different reasons. What I would say is that I think it would be far more beneficial, whether you like this or not, to get kids out at nighttime to measure the sunlight, the moonlight, to see whether or not it was cold in the shade or whether it was warm in the shade compared to the moonlight. Because that's a much more beneficial experiment, because although it's not technically an experiment, it's at least something that they can get their hands dirty in science and come up to a conclusion for, is moonlight really cold? And if it is, why? How's that working? Because it's such a good thing that kids should be doing in science, in my opinion, instead of that ball thing. So what do you think, Nathan?
You know, I'm going to say, I'm not even going to say it.
It's not an experiment, but at least it's cool, right?
I'd like you to define the whole thing with experiments, Nathan, because you and I've talked about that behind the scenes, and maybe others aren't really up to date on what you're talking about.
No problem. So In an experiment, you are trying to validate a hypothesis. A hypothesis establishes the cause, your presumed cause at hypothesis stage, of an effect. So cause and effect is what you're dealing with. The effect is a phenomena. So you will observe a phenomena, step one of the scientific method. So science deals with the physical and natural world, and the physical and natural world and what needs explaining in it is phenomena. So your first step is to observe a phenomena that will become. Go on. Sorry, Anthony.
Your dependent variable.
Yeah, exactly. The phenomena that you observe becomes the dependent variable, or DV. So the IV-DV relationship is what you're going to be describing in your hypothesis, also known as scientific prediction. So once you've observed a phenomena, you try and figure out what's caused the phenomena. So to establish what the cause is, you make a prediction. That would be a hypothesis, scientific prediction, and it establishes the independent variable's relationship with the dependent variable. So the cause and the effect. So you're essentially predicting what will cause the effect. And the way you do it, or the way you establish if that is correct, is by varying and manipulating the independent variable, or presumed cause of the effect. If your presumed cause does cause the phenomena, then you have successfully performed science and established the cause and effect, and that is validated by systematic experimentation. So systematic experimentation stage in the scientific method is often hijacked. So when people say, have you repeated this observation? Well, that's not scientific. It doesn't mean that you've done something scientific just because you've done it twice. When they refer to repeating, it's the systematic experimentation stage that they're referring to. So if you can consistently demonstrate with your experiment, or anybody else who chooses to replicate it, the exact same cause causing the effect, then it's valid. It always holds true. So that's pretty much it. Do you want me to summarize it?
No, I think what we'll do is we'll say
No.
that moonlight being cold or warm is much more interested in science, because it's way better than learning out some of the stuff that I learned.
Okay, well, true science drives true scientific discovery, things that genuinely change the world for the better. Those are what science can produce. Now, the problem with things like National Geographic is they take step one of the scientific method, observe a phenomena. They then do not formulate hypothesis, they do not perform systematic experimentation, and they just make a conclusion. So they observe, for example, a boat with some stripy flag on the back of it going out into the distance. They have a little look at it, and then they tell you what's caused it. Well, that's not establishing an independent and dependent variable relationships. That's not an observed phenomena in the natural world. You know, that's something that man's done. Man's had a look at and then told you what's caused it. Well, that's not science, unfortunately.
I was there and I saw that boat and I saw that experiment, as they were calling it. And what they were saying on camera that they were seeing isn't what we were seeing happen. What we were seeing happen with our naked eyes was exactly what you would expect on a flat Earth. But they even were saying things like, well, you can't see that far because we live on a globe.
Yeah.
They were doubting their own eyes. You were talking about moonlight. Justin Gilead in the live chat says, moonlight's really cold. I got hit with some moonlight last night, gave me frostbite, and I died. So,
okay.
I know another claim that flat earthers say that drives, I grit my teeth when they say it. You know, when they say about the sun not being 93 million miles away, it might not even be a tangible object. And they say, well, how far away is the sun then? And they say 3,000 miles. And I go, no, don't say that. You don't know that. Don't claim it, because now you're going to have to prove it.
You can say, I think it's about 3,000 miles, give or take, right?
No, the best answer is I don't know.
Well, but people do want kind of an idea of what you might think.
That's where the problems begin.
Yeah,
So,
you're right. That's just like me saying, I think that NASA means to deceive in Hebrew, I think. Yeah, and then it really doesn't, and then it spreads. So you're right. I don't know.
We have a massive problem with saying the following words. I do not know.
You know what? In flat Earth, that is a huge problem, as is these words aren't usually said. I am sorry.
Yeah.
We've almost got 333 people in the live chat, so we need a couple other watchers.
333.
Well, 306.
333, that's like 3 times more than what's going on. Normally I see this and it's about 150 when I tune in.
Just read these numbers last night, didn't you?
Give or take, off and on.
I think what it is, I know what it is, Patricia. It's because you started an hour earlier and England is still awake.
Oh, interesting. Maybe I should do all the shows at this time.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Yes, definitely.
Well, when I first started in Flat Earth in 2015, I would have a much larger viewing group on my channel. Not in the first few videos, but after I kind of got rolling with my channel. And, some would say, oh, well, you're not that popular. People hate you. I mean, that would be the haters who would say that. But the reality of it is we have so much more to choose from that the content, it gets watered down. You could probably find some great things happening right now. I don't want you to leave, but you could go and look, and other channels are doing live streams right now, other videos to watch. But back in 2015, there just wasn't as much happening. I remember the day when I used to have more live viewers than Globebusters. Bob will remember that. And then one day he cracked it, and then whoo, I don't know. They're never stopping with their growth, which is cool. Very cool. Well, anything else that we have not discussed that we said we were going to discuss? I don't think so.
It's got to be a few more. It's got to be a few more flat Earth cliches that grit our teeth, Nathan.
Oh, I know there are some. Let me think for a moment. Oh, the Bible is a flat Earth book. Now,
yeah.
Okay, now I am not against the Bible, and there are things in the Bible that one could say point to a flat Earth. But if you say it's a flat Earth book, it's taking a leap. That doesn't mean I'm denying Christianity or a particular person who's in the chat's belief, but that's a big stretch. And you have to remember, when you're talking to people, many people aren't Christians. Many people don't hold the Bible as dear as you do. And it would be maybe more off-putting than not. So
the antithesis of that the other day. So we had Travis. So big shout out to the Plain Truth. And he's a flat earther and a Christian. And he wanted to argue, absolutely straight up legit, the Bible is not a flat earth book. Now, I have to, as a, to moderate to some extent, in the same way as I say, you can't just outright declare the sun is not physical. You just don't know. It might be physical for all you know. Well, you can't whatever the word is, you can't say the Bible's not a flat earth book, because there's plenty of arguments for it being so. But it's just weird having a flat earther who's a Christian argue for it not being a flat earth book. Just never heard that one argued before.
Well,
I know you're going to round out soon. We did touch on this earlier, or Anthony did. So we're in a second wave of censorship as flat earthers, and I hope I've led by example on the debates before I was shut down, and now that I'm back on, in the respect that we like to share the actual links for the videos that we're promoting or the people that we're talking about. I know you do this anyway, Patricia. Like I said earlier, you're excellent at this. But I'm encouraging or speaking directly to the audience, or if you're a videographer, if you're doing like we do, even if you haven't got a massive audience, the chances are somebody who's watching your live stream will hear somebody you mentioned that they don't know. And if they've got a link in the chat, there and then they will go and subscribe, or there's a much better chance that they'll subscribe. The same applies, I will shut up eventually about this, but same goes for sharing. So the share button is the easiest button, and it happens every single debate. I'll go in, say the same things over and over again. Did anybody actually share this show? Because I do it, and I go off my own logic, which is to say that if I behave like this, there's at least 10 other people that probably exhibit exactly the same behavior. So I'll go into your show, Patricia, and yay, secret show. I love watching Mark and Patricia. Hey, chat, how's it going? First, as always, that kind of crap. And then you get 10 minutes into the show, and it suddenly dawns on you, I've not shared this show. I've not let a single person know that I'm watching this show. I've not helped in the slightest to this audience. I'm here enjoying it, and I'd love to share it, but I just haven't. So by encouraging people, as a general rule of thumb, if you're watching your favorite flat earth show, you should be sharing it, because at the moment, if you don't, it's just not going to reach anybody. It's going to reach the saturated audience it's already reached. So, unless you want us to continually go around preaching in a circle to the people who are already converted, then you need to be hitting the share button as much as humanly possible. And I constantly remind people, it doesn't matter where I go, if I'm in your show with Mark, Globebusters, Anthony's, I'll say the same things. Have you actually shared the show? It's one button. It says share. Really easy to do.
Yeah, you can share on Facebook, you can share on Twitter with that one share button. And I do both whenever I can. And that's an excuse. Whenever I can. I can every single moment of every single day if I wanted to. I do share a lot, but sometimes I can't share everything because it's literally impossible. I share my own stuff right before I do it. And, helping other people. I mean, Globebusters doesn't need my help to share their show,
yeah, it does.
But I still do.
I'm going to cut you off. No, that's wrong. Globebusters absolutely requires your shares, as does everybody. It doesn't matter if I'm watching Jaren, Globebusters. That's why I say it, because there's a chance that people will take that attitude. Globebusters have got 20, 30,000 subscribers. Red Pill Philosophy, 200,000 subscribers. Jaren, 130, 140,000 subscribers. They don't need my share. Wrong. They absolutely require your share more than ever. So Jaren, probably the worst hit by the current wave of censorship, because I'd like to talk stats, and I've discussed this with Jaren. He had something like, I think it was something like 70 or 80% not subscribed watching his videos. And as soon as you
most of my viewership's not subscribed.
Well, that's fantastic.
It is?
It means going out to an audience that isn't already subscribed to you. So you're reaching people that could potentially become new subscribers. Well, that's going to change in a heartbeat if they stop putting your video next to other videos that previously recommended your content. And you can see it in Jaren's stats. They've gone, because that's exactly what they've done. They've stopped recommending him to the bazillion people he was having all of his cracking material sat next to.
So it's up to us.
Jaren eventually.
It's up to us to recommend.
Yeah, it is. If that stops, there's only one way to combat that. Well, you've got to share it yourself. You can't rely on YouTube's algorithm to do it for us, and it's imperative that we do it for people. It doesn't matter if they're seemingly a large channel. It might seem like 200,000 subscribers if you're watching Red Pill is a massive amount. No, not at all. Is he even a hair's breadth away from mainstream coverage? No, not in the slightest. He absolutely requires your shares. So, the people who've got 5 million, 6 million YouTube subscribers, there's still people out there that don't know who the hell they are. So it's applicable always, but even more so in the face of censorship. We are being censored. We're being told quite directly that is the case. So if you want to deny it, well, you're just a denier. We're being censored. The only way to get around it is to share.
The power is in our hands. And I do want to mention that all books are Flat Earth books, really, because they've all been written and can be read on the Flat Earth.
So just running on from the Bible one.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's a Flat Earth book or not, who cares, right? It may be, it may not be. But there is more evidence for Noah's Ark than there is for gravity. And
Love
that's
it.
true.
Yeah, love that. Very interesting. What a great way to end our show. Thank you very much, Anthony Riley, Sleeping Warrior. A link to his channel in the description box. Please subscribe and share. And Nathan Oakley with several channels and a website. The link is in the description box to all of that. Are either of you doing something of note coming up next? Anthony, you first.
I suppose I am. I mean,
cleaning up that sofa behind you, because it's really messy.
It's that corner of the room needs to be tidied up. It does. But so I'm currently doing a master's in straight law as a result of a GoFundMe, and I actually sent an email to a new university just today, because I'm actually considering doing a PhD in law starting in September. All because trolls are bugging me saying you can't do a PhD, and I'm thinking actually I can, and I'm thinking should I actually do it, because it opens doors up to me. So I am considering doing a PhD, all because of trolls giving me shit.
Trolls are wonderful motivators, and we thank you so very much. Not just for sending flowers, Star Gods, MGTV, and Flat Earth Reset, and all the other people who sent these flowers to me, but all the trolls who challenge us every day and oftentimes make our arguments better. So we appreciate you. Troll on, my friends. Nathan, anything you've got coming up?
Coming up, but done. So the nathanoakley.com website, which you have linked, thank you very much indeed, is now up and running, and it's got a community forum. If you want to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and join the forum. So discussions have definitely begun. There's people debating about the various different subjects which we discussed at the beginning of each debate, which is to say the housekeeping questions. Those are currently the main debate topic forums. So if you want to join in, it's a tentative way of getting into the debate, because obviously, like a online chess game or something, you don't have to respond immediately when someone puts something to you. You can just think about it or go and do research if you don't know the answer. But it's a nice softer way into potentially people gaining the skills or the knowledge to actually come in and then debate in the live show. So it's a nice. I'm delighted. I won't lie. I'm so made up with the way the website is. So check it out. At least go and look at it. nathanoakley.com. Really pleased. And I'm going to shout out my Patreons. I can't believe I'm that guy, but I have got Patreons and I'm going to thank them. Thank you very, very much to all my Patreons. Thank you to Ranty to talking me into doing it, because it's taken a massive load off. So thank you very much to all of that. And yeah, check out my website. Plug.
All right, might as well do it. This is the place to do it. This concludes episode 276. This show is called Unplugged. Nathan Oakley and I, and we will oftentimes have guests on, as we have with Anthony Riley. However, next week, no show. Also, no secret show next week, too. Next Wednesday, I'm going to be taking off to go to Southern California to go to the Question Everything conference. So I will be gone for the whole week and then be back whenever I get back and start doing more shows again. But Russian Vids, my guest tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 11 p.m. GMT, right here on this very channel. And he made an interesting and fun promo, which I'll also link in the description box for our show tomorrow, which will be Friday, February 15th. This is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. See you later, and keep it flat.